One of the things that we're going to be working on, which I know a number of other organizations are also throwing their weight behind, is the Census 2020, and how do we use that opportunity to also leverage voter engagement. And so one of the things we're specifically going to be working on is creating digital content to sort of fill the void of the educational gap that exists, especially for young voters, around what is the census, why is it important, and why should you make sure to pay attention to it. So I'm going to show the video that we just created and launched on April 1st on Census Day. We will continue to create content and create opportunities for partners to also help us create content and distribute the information. And so this is sort of where we're going with it, and we're excited to continue the digital aspect of like filling that void of what is the census and how do we inform young voters about it. So play the video.
It's all about power
and money,
almost $700 billion per year.
and it only happens once every 10 years.
It directly impacts our representation in government
and the money that goes to
our communities,
our schools,
our housing,
our neighborhood programs,
our lives.
So what is it?
the census.
A population count of America.
But it's much more than that.
It's the basis of distributing power and money
From the government to our communities.
The unfortunate part is that a lot of us aren't counted.
And it's on us to change that.
When we aren't counted, our communities don't get their fair share.
For each person not counted, their community loses out on over $20,000 over 10 years.
For a household or a family of 5, that community loses out on over $100,000.
But we can change it.
When the census comes in the mail,
fill it out, don't throw it out, or do it online.
And make sure to count everyone in the household.
Little ones too.
Little ones too.
The census begins in 2020.
Most households will get a postcard in the mail next March telling them it's census time.
And we're required to fill it out.
The counts will be used to determine how many congresspersons each state gets.
And to draw new congressional maps in 2021.
It's also used to draw maps for basically every level of government.
From the state legislature to school boards.
So this is a huge opportunity for us
to make a direct impact on our communities.
It's critical that we are all counted.
So go ahead, take the pledge.
Pledge to be counted.
Pledge to be counted.
Pledge to be counted.
Because there's too much at stake not to.
I count.
I count.
I count.
I count.
I count.
We count.
Contamos.
We count.
We count.
And إحنا محسوبين.
Tayo'y kabilang.
We count.
I count!
Thanks, Jen, for sharing that awesome video. That hopefully everybody will be live tweeting and sharing out. It really brings home the message that census is so important for our communities and also how it's used for redistricting. And our next presenter will be Jonathan Stein, staff attorney and program manager for the Voting Rights Program for Asian Americans Advancing Justice Asian Law Caucus. And Jonathan's going to share a couple of slides. And here's the clicker.
Hi, everyone. Okay, hi. I'm going to repeat my joke that half of you heard before. I'm going to follow that video with pictures of a website and pictures of documents, which is like the least interesting thing to put in a presentation. We have created a website in partnership with a national network of Asian American civil rights organizations that is meant to provide resources on census. It's countusin2020.org. This is a picture of the homepage. On the homepage, which is still being built out, it's oriented towards Asian American communities, but and you'll find data about Asian American communities. But what I want to emphasize is that there's a resources section that has resources that will be useful to all range of communities and people interested in activating whoever they work with on census. I sort of thought I'd be able to see my slides when I presented. There are translated resources that will hopefully be in a range of languages going forward. Right now we have a number in Chinese. We also have a number of webinars that, again, are useful to any range of communities, not just Asian American communities. And one thing that we... we have a range of resources from partner organizations that meet the specific needs of specific communities. And so if you're looking for one place where a range of groups working on census might have all their stuff cataloged, you can use this website for that as well. And then one thing I want to emphasize is that while lots and lots of organizations are creating census fact sheets or FAQs or primers or cheat sheets, one thing that we can offer that you might find useful is a very in-depth analysis of the tricky legal, policy, and technical questions that surround Census 2020 that never surrounded previous censuses. Things pertaining to the citizenship question, language access, enumerators, and so on. That's 17 pages. It's primarily drafted by Julia Marks, my colleague who's in the back. And if you're interested in really diving deep on some of the most difficult questions around Census 2020, this memo should answer your questions. So find me or find Julia, and we're happy to share it. It's also on the website I mentioned earlier, as well as our organizational website. And then I want to take one more second to share that we're also beginning work on redistricting. You probably know that the California Citizen Redistricting Commission is opening its application process in June of this year, much earlier than we had anticipated. And so if you're interested in applying for the California Citizens Redistricting Commission, or you have colleagues and community members who may be interested, we've created a fact sheet / FAQ on who can apply and how to apply. So if you're interested in California's redistricting process, and specifically you're interested in applying to the Citizens Redistricting Commission, that resource may be of value to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. And I told you guys these would be quick, so thank you to our presenters for just going bam, bam, bam. There's so much material out there, but we want to make sure that as you reach out to California's diverse population, you guys have the right messages, and these organizations are doing an outstanding job. So our next presenter is Lisa Escobedo, Director of National Census Program for the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials and Aleo Educational Fund.
So I have a combination of both of the presentations because we have documents and we have videos, so bear with me. The Aleo Educational Fund just launched on April 1st our Hágase Contar campaign, which is a campaign to count all Latino hard-to-count communities. As part of this, here's some more information about our campaign. I'll spare folks that because it's a mouthful to read through right now, and I know we have limited time. But feel free to take a picture, take that with you, and we can give a copy to you if you guys would like. On April 1st, we launched our HágaseContar.org campaign, which has tons of great information. Part of what we did in this effort is took a lot of the lessons learned from working in our 2010 census campaign in terms of what was some useful information, what were some useful data captures in terms of some of the information we wanted to capture from partners. The other big portion is that you'll see right there at the bottom, and when you visit our website, you'll see it right on top in the toolbar. You can actually do a direct click into our national bilingual hotline, which is 877 El Censo, so that when folks are viewing it from their phone, they can actually just click on the number and it'll take them directly into our hotline, which is something new that we did this time around. And the other reason why we did that is because according to our research, we actually realized that about 70% of Latinos consume websites on their phone. So we wanted to make sure that it was mobile friendly. And there's tons of other useful information, but we have some really cool videos, so I'm going to sprint through this. So on April 1st, we launched a really cool animated video called What is a Census and Why It's Important. I don't know if I can play it from here, so I might need help back there.
To make sure the Latino community is fairly counted, we need your participation in the upcoming 2020 census. So what exactly is the census, and why is it important? Every 10 years, the census gathers data about each and every person living in the United States. By gathering accurate data about Latinos and all residents, the Census Bureau can develop a true snapshot of our cities, states, and country. Ultimately, Census 2020 data will drive a wide range of decisions that affect the lives of Latinos and all Americans. From monitoring and implementing civil rights laws to allocating $700 billion in federal funding each year to states and localities. Accurate census data also ensures the fair and equitable distribution of political power for Latinos and all Americans. So join us and make the 2020 census count.
So the next video we had is something that we learned from our various research is making sure that we were personalizing the issue of the census and really telling the story. The other thing that we did with some of our digital work was making sure that we were making it friendly and accessible on Instagram and Facebook. So now you'll see a series of our 1-minute videos that were bilingually done. So this is the Meet Leo story.
Este es Leo. Leo y su familia han vivido en el mismo vecindario la gran parte de sus vidas, pero últimamente han notado un cambio. Las escuelas están más llenas, conducir toma más tiempo y hay menos guarderías disponibles. Ni hablar de cómo se han reducido los programas de asistencia federal. Leo se dio cuenta de que la falta de una voz que represente a su comunidad ha llevado a que muchos de estos problemas sean ignorados, y por eso decidió participar en el censo de los Estados Unidos. Participar en el censo ayudará a garantizar que su comunidad reciba una partida justa de financiación para servicios públicos y también la representación política que le corresponde. Como Leo, usted también puede hacer un cambio al ser contado. Manténgase informado sobre el próximo censo 2020 contactando al Fondo Educativo Naleo. Hágase contar. Envíe el mensaje de texto censo al 97779 o llame al 1-877-352-3676.
And that's about it. If you want to contact me, here's my contact information. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisette. And our next speaker is James Woodson, Manager of Policy and Strategic Projects for California Calls. Thanks, James.
Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is James Woodson. I'm representing California Calls, but in this space, really wanted to highlight two coalitions that we are a part of. The first is the Census Policy Advocacy Network, which is a group of organizations, including some of my colleagues, Advancing Justice and Naleo, that are really working to advocate for additional funding and infrastructure around census outreach. You know, one of the things I wanted to highlight is that while folks are really focused on the citizenship question and how it affects immigrants, there are also a lot of other hard-to-count communities that we really need to pay attention to. And so you'll see some of those folks represented here, everybody from the LGBTQ community, low-income folks, you know, of course, people of color, Latinos, Asian Pacific Islanders, children under 5. And so really want to highlight again that census outreach is not just about the citizenship question and how it'll affect immigrants, but it's really sort of a comprehensive effort. One of the most significant hard-to-count communities that I wanted to raise here is really Black folks. And so California Calls, along with PICO California, Advancement Project California, and the Black PAC have formed a Black Census and Redistricting Hub. And there's a couple of reasons why we started this hub. First was that there's 2.5 million Black folks in the state of California. Actually, over half of them are hard to count. And those, you know, sort of range from other hard-to-count communities, including homeless folk, formerly incarcerated folks, immigrants and refugees. And so we really wanted to make sure that we were focused on that. You know, there's actually been a historical undercount in California and across the country of Black folks. And so we really want to make sure that we're highlighting that. Thus far, there has been no sort of statewide network that was focusing on particularly hard-to-count communities in the Black community. Again, homeless folks, formerly incarcerated folks, low-income folks. And so we really wanted to step up into that space. Some of the ways that you all can get involved in that process to help us really make sure that Black folks are counted are to connect with the California Black Census and Redistricting Hub. You'll see my contact information on the screen. If you're interested in plugging folks in, or plugging in yourself, please get in contact with me. We actually have flyers out on the resource table that you can also take with you to distribute to your community. You can also get in touch with me if you want to connect with the Census Policy Advocacy Network, or again, any of the organizations that you saw on the first slide. Again, we really want to make sure that we're focusing on our hard to count communities and making sure that we have outreach strategies that are specifically tailored to each of those communities. So with that, I will leave you, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, James, for those resources. Last but not least is Sean Duggar, who is going to actually be talking to us about redistricting. He is the redistricting consultant for California Common Cause.
Good afternoon. That's horrible. I know you guys are eating, but good afternoon. I'm going to keep this short and sweet because Jonathan stole half of my speech. All love. So I am the redistricting consultant for Common Cause California, and we have two efforts that we're leading. One is focused around statewide redistricting in partnership with the Advancement Project and a number of partners who are in the room today. We are leading the statewide collaborative of organizations that are focused on outreach and recruitment for the next generation of commissioners to the State Redistricting Commission. As Jonathan mentioned, the process is starting very early this go-around. Applications open June 10th and will end on August 9th. So it's just a few months in order for us to get an extremely diverse pool of commissioners who reflect every segment of the population of our state. And so we have a coalition of about 13 organizations that are really focused on that initial phase. Then we're going into that same coalition and cohort focused on recruiting and doing outreach and drawing the maps and ensuring that we have maps that are reflective of the diversity of the state of California. But I also want to talk about another effort that we're doing, which is local redistricting. I think I went the wrong way. Uh-oh. Nope. Okay, so on our California Common Cause website, we have a website with a bunch of resources for those of you who are interested in doing citizen redistricting at the local level. So the cities you see here are cities that we are working with, mostly Northern California, but a couple down in Southern California, to really inform the process and provide support for communities who are doing organizing. Keep going. So here's an example of our Martinez website and the resources provided there. So you'll see we have a background on what's happening in what's the history of redistricting is in that community, as well as kind of a handbook, if you will, for best practices around citizens redistricting across the country and how it can be implemented in your communities. We're also, Nicholas, do you want to stand up and wave? We also, through Nicholas, have the ability to draft ordinances for local communities and provide them with whatever tools and resources they need to implement the redistricting process. So that's it. Thank you very much.